5 years ago, I thought I had found the love of my life in the most unexpected place, a small bar downtown. Now I sit here alone, trying to make sense of how everything unraveled so completely. It all began at Joey's Bar and Grill, on a lively Friday night. She was there with a group of co-workers, celebrating a friend's promotion. I noticed her immediately, the way she laughed, the way she danced. She had this magnetic energy that seemed to draw everyone in, including me. After mustering up some courage, I approached her and introduced myself. From the moment we started talking, there was a spark. She was outgoing, fun, and unapologetically full of life. Yes, she enjoyed her drinks, perhaps a little too much, but at the time, I chalked it up to youthful exuberance. That night, we talked for hours, and she came home with me. The next morning, she laughed and confessed that she wasn't the type to have one-night stands, adding that most guys usually disappeared afterward. But I wasn't most guys. There was something about her that made me want to know her deeply, to see where this could lead. We began seeing each other regularly, and within a few months, we were inseparable. By the end of the year, we moved in together, and not long after, we got married. Life wasn't perfect, but it felt close enough. She had just graduated from college and was working a retail job while searching for something more aligned with her dreams. I was happy, even if her drinking, wine with dinner, nights out with friends, occasionally gave me pause. I never imagined it could grow into something that would one day consume her. Then, everything changed with one devastating phone call. Her parents and younger sister had been in a car accident on their way home from a family vacation. None of them survived. She was utterly shattered. Her sister had been her best friend, her confidant, the person she spoke to daily, and had weekly dinners with. The grief was more than she could bear. In the weeks after the funeral, her drinking escalated. At first, I thought it was just a way of coping. She used alcohol to fall asleep, to get through the day, to numb the unbearable pain. She quit her job, saying she couldn't handle being around people anymore. I supported her, believing she just needed time to heal. But the months dragged on, and her drinking only worsened. 6 months after losing her family, we faced another blow. She suffered a miscarriage. That loss broke her completely. She withdrew into herself, and the woman I had fallen in love with became a shadow of her former self. Empty bottles littered our home, and her moods became erratic and unpredictable. Some days, she wouldn't even get out of bed. On others, the smallest things, a dish left in the sink, a wrinkled shirt, would ignite her fury. I tried everything. I worked longer hours to cover our bills, attended grief counseling sessions with her when she was willing to go, and suggested new hobbies to distract her. But nothing seemed to reach her. Then came the day that shattered what little trust one had left. I came home early from work to find her on our couch, kissing our neighbor Tom. She was clearly drunk, he wasn't. I kicked him out immediately, and informed his wife of what had happened. Despite the betrayal, I convinced myself it was the alcohol clouding her judgment, and tried to forgive her. But days later, I saw them talking again in our parking lot. When she noticed me watching, she quickly walked away, and I realized that I couldn't keep ignoring the truth. Her drinking had spiraled so far out of control that I couldn't trust her with our shared finances anymore. After countless arguments and emotional conversations, I finally persuaded her to enter rehabilitation. She resisted at first, insisting she didn't have a problem, but eventually she agreed. For the first few months, things seemed to improve. She attended therapy sessions, participated in group meetings, and started to resemble the woman I had fallen in love with. I finally began to feel hopeful. But even then, there were signs I chose to overlook. How she dressed up for her sessions, the way her eyes lit up when she spoke about her counselor, David. One night, she came home unusually giddy, twirling around the living room like a schoolgirl in love. "I'm in love," she announced. At first, I thought she was joking, but then she started talking about David, her counselor. She claimed he understood her in ways I never could, that he made her feel alive again. She even said they were planning to get married. I reminded her that David was married with children, a fact she had mentioned herself in the past. She just smiled, saying he was planning to leave his family for her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This man, who was supposed to be helping her heal, was exploiting her vulnerability. The next day, I confronted David at the center. He acted shocked, calling her delusional. Then, my wife stepped out from around the corner, tears streaming down her face. Not of sadness but of anger. She pulled out her phone and showed us both a video, a recording of the two of them together in a hotel room. David's demeanor shifted instantly. He coldly dismissed her, calling her foolish for believing he would ever leave his family. He called her unstable, just another patient who had blurred the lines of their relationship. I watched as his words crushed her. She collapsed in the hallway, sobbing uncontrollably. For a moment, despite everything, I felt an ache of sympathy. She had been used and discarded by someone she trusted to help her heal. But my sympathy had its limits. She had betrayed me, broken the vows we made, and had planned to leave me for him. Now I sit here, reflecting on the wreckage of the life we built together. How did we end up here? How did everything go so wrong? 5 years ago, I thought I had found my forever. Today, I am left wondering if I ever truly knew her at all. 5 years ago, I believed I had found the love of my life. The night I met her at a small bar downtown was unforgettable. Now, as I sit here alone, reflecting on everything that has happened since, I can't help but wonder how it all went so wrong. I met her at Joey's Bar and Grill on a vibrant Friday night. She was there with her coworkers, celebrating a friend's promotion. She caught my eye instantly, her laughter, her energy, the way she seemed to light up the room. I couldn't resist approaching her. After gathering my courage, I introduced myself, and we hit it off immediately. She was fun, lively, and magnetic, with a spark that made her unforgettable. We talked for hours, and by the end of the night, she came back to my place. The next morning, she joked about how this wasn't something she usually did, and how most men didn't stick around after a one-night stand. I reassured her that I wasn't like most men. There was something about her that made me want to know her better, to see where this connection could lead. We started seeing each other regularly, and within months, we were inseparable. By the end of the year, we moved in together, and not long after, we got married. She had just graduated college and was working a retail job while looking for something more aligned with her goals. Life wasn't perfect, but we were happy. Her love for wine and nights out occasionally concerned me, but I dismissed it as part of her carefree personality. I never imagined it could grow into something that would one day consume her. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Her parents and younger sister had been in a car accident, and none of them survived. Her world, and ours, shattered in an instant. She was devastated. She and her sister had been especially close, speaking every day and sharing weekly dinners. The loss was unbearable for her. In the aftermath of their deaths, she turned to alcohol. At first, I thought it was a temporary coping mechanism, a way to dull the pain. But her drinking escalated. She began drinking to get through the day, to sleep, to numb herself from the grief that consumed her. She quit her job, saying she couldn't face people anymore. I supported her, thinking she just needed time to heal. Months passed, and her drinking only worsened. 6 months after losing her family, she miscarried. The grief was more than she could bear, and she spiraled further. Our home became a minefield of empty bottles and volatile emotions. Some days she wouldn't get out of bed, other days, the smallest things would set her off. An unwashed dish, a misplaced item. I tried everything to help her. I worked overtime to cover the bills, went to counseling with her when she agreed, and tried to keep her engaged with new hobbies. Nothing worked. Then came the day I walked into our home early from work, to find her kissing our neighbor, Tom, on the couch. She was drunk, but he wasn't. I threw him out immediately and told his wife what had happened. Despite the betrayal, I convinced myself that it was the alcohol clouding her judgment. I tried to forgive her, but a few days later, I saw them talking in the parking lot. She quickly walked away when she saw me. That's when I realized I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. After much arguing and pleading, I convinced her to go to rehab. It was a battle. She insisted she didn't have a problem, but eventually she agreed. For a while things seemed to improve. She attended therapy, participated in group sessions, and started looking more like the woman I fell in love with. But there were signs I missed. She started dressing up for her sessions and spoke about her counselor, David, with a sparkle in her eyes. One night, She came home twirling around the living room, giddy with excitement. She announced, "I'm in love." At first, I thought she was joking, but then she started talking about David, claiming he understood her in ways I never could, and that they were planning to get married. I reminded her that David was married with children, but she just smiled, saying he was planning to leave them for her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This man, who was supposed to be helping her heal, was taking advantage of her vulnerability. The next day, I confronted him at the center. He feigned shock, calling her delusional. Then she stepped out from the shadows, tears streaming down her face. Not of sadness, but of anger. She pulled out her phone and showed us a video, intimate footage of her and David in a hotel room. David's reaction was cruel. He dismissed her, calling her foolish for believing he would ever leave his family. He called her unstable, just another patient who had become too attached. I watched as his words shattered her. She collapsed in tears, completely broken. Despite my anger, I helped her home. I knew I had to act. First, I reported David to the authorities. With the video evidence and her testimony, we had a strong case. Second, I admitted her to a trauma and addiction recovery facility. It was expensive, but I couldn't leave her alone in her darkest moment, no matter what she had done. While she was in treatment, I filed for divorce. Some friends said I was being too kind, that I should walk away without looking back. But I couldn't erase 4 years of marriage, and all we'd been through overnight. The case against David moved forward. He lost his license, received a 5-year jail sentence, and his facility was shut down. Through her doctors, I made sure my wife knew he would never hurt anyone else again. 6 months later, I received a letter from her. She wrote about her progress, how she was finally dealing with her grief, and how she was deeply sorry for everything she had done. She thanked me for helping her, even after all the pain she caused. She said she was moving to start fresh, and wouldn't contact me unless I wanted her to. Reading her letter stirred a mix of emotions: relief, anger, and a bittersweet sense of closure. I knew our story had ended, but I also knew it was for the best. A year has passed. I've moved to a new neighborhood, and started therapy to heal from the scars her struggles left behind. I'm not dating yet, but I'm taking things one day at a time. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that loving someone doesn't mean staying when they hurt you. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for both of you, is to let go.